This week on Jerusalem Dateline, a look back at 2016, from the ravages of ISIS to the return of Christians to their villages in Iraq, and the election of President-elect Trump. What will it mean for the Middle East? Plus, the United Nations says no to a Jewish connection to the Temple Mount. All this and more this week on Jerusalem Dateline. Hello and welcome to this special year-end edition of Jerusalem Dateline. I'm Chris Mitchell, coming to you from just outside the walls of the Old City. For more than 2 years, the world has fought the scourge of ISIS in Iraq and Syria. The military campaign to drive ISIS out of Mosul has given hope to millions who fled their homes there. But what will it look like when they return? Early this year, I visited the Yazidi city of Sinjar. It gives a picture of what Mosul might look like when it's finally set free. Parts of Sinjar today look like ruins from ancient times, or a destroyed city from a world war. ISIS did much of this destruction, while street fighting and Allied airstrikes did the rest. Before ISIS left Sinjar, they took terrorism to a whole new level. Behind me is one of the churches they destroyed. They also laid mines, set booby traps, and destroyed many other buildings. It wasn't just buildings. ISIS tried to wipe out the Yazidis, this peaceful religious ethnic group in northern Iraq. This is one of the mass grave sites outside the city of Sinjar. There's about 28 sites like this around here. You can see some clothes and human bones. About 1,500 Yazidis were killed. Most of them were men, but some were women and children. And the test for young boys was, if they raised their arm and had any underarm hair, they could be killed.
If anybody wants to know why you need to stop ISIS, you look at this. These are women and children, and men. Every kind of person, every age. You have little baby skulls this big with the front teeth bashed in. You can look, there's no teeth in the whole front nasal cavity. They're just smashed in like with a rifle or something. To slaughter whole families like that. And they're right there, not very far away, just probably about 1,000 yards away is ISIS. Eubank says the war fought here is the same war facing the West. These are our brothers and sisters. It's coming to us anyways. This is the war we didn't choose, and it's coming. It's already come to America. So we don't have a choice. And irrationally, you don't have a choice. You have to stop this. Morally, much more importantly, we need to stop this for the sake of these people. So that's what I think the lesson learned is when evil comes, you don't wait. It's like an infection. You don't wonder if it's going to get better. You immediately attack it. That's how you start the healing. After visiting the site, we found this man who witnessed the massacre.
When I saw this, I couldn't do anything. I was in the mountain defending our position since ISIS didn't capture Mount Sinjar. I felt sorry because I couldn't help. We couldn't come down.
During the fighting to capture the city from ISIS, the fighting went street to street and underground. This is one of the tunnels that ISIS dug throughout Sinjar. There was one on the other side, an entrance on the other side of the road. Under the road came here, and you just follow this down, and this goes to another building. This is how they fought the war, the battle for Sinjar. This one tunnel stretched through 5 buildings. Military experts expect ISIS has dug numerous tunnels like this one inside Mosul. In urban fighting, it gives the defenders of the city a big advantage. The city itself is littered with the debris of war. For example, this poster warns about picking up any leftover explosives. Yet in the midst of this danger and destruction, there's a sign of life, a playground.
This is a gift from Reload Love, which is a church in Albuquerque. And it was a vision. It's a product of great vision to put fun and joy in a war zone, to give kids that have lived through trauma of war some fresh piece of love from people who care and pray for them.
Its bright colors not only stand out in a war-weary city, but one young American saw the value of what a playground can do for the children of war.
In one of our church visits, one of the Sunday school kids was watching a video of kids playing at a different playground on another front line and said, I think they've forgotten about it. I think they've forgotten about the war. They're just playing. That's our joy in partnership with this, and it's our prayer for the kids that they would know something about God's love and creative new opening in the midst of a difficult place.
It's likely a story that will be repeated in and around Mosul. But the playground stands as a sign of hope in a place, among a people, and in a region where hope seems to have fled. On August 6, 2014, nearly 60,000 people fled the Christian town of Karakosh just hours before ISIS overran the city. In the fall of 2016, the Kurdish military liberated that city. And as we reported from the northern Iraqi town, ISIS left behind a trail of devastation and destruction. CBN News joined Sister Diana, a Dominican nun, and her team to show us what ISIS did to their city. We first visited her home church, the Immaculate Conception Cathedral.
This is considered the largest church for us in the Middle East. We do all our worship in here. I would say my parents got married here. We have our first communion here. And we used to worship every single day during our feast days, Christmas, Easter.
From the ceiling to the floor to the altar, ISIS left its mark.
What we were told is they gathered so many of these benches, they put it inside in the middle here and burned them. So the church was burning for days. You know, wherever you see there's a cross, they took it down. If you see here, we have the altar. They tried to do as much as they have in their power to say, you Christians, stop, live here. This is not your land.
In the remains, Sister Diana found charred pages from a New Testament.
The letter to John, chapter 4 and 5, because he's the one who came to save us with water and blood. It says, do not follow evil, but follow everyone who does goodness, because he is from God. Whoever done evil would not see God.
This is the courtyard of the Immaculate Conception Church. When ISIS was here, they used it as a training ground. For example, you can see the courtyard littered with bullets. At the far end, they used it for target practice. Over here is the convent, and they brought thousands of books out of the convent, brought them here into the center of the courtyard, and they burned them. All that's left is this pile of ashes.
All this, it was a target practice. If you can see, especially this area, and pray. Imagine how many people they have trained to kill.
On the street, we witnessed devastation, some of it caused by coalition airstrikes targeting ISIS.
What you see here, those were houses. The matter of fact, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 houses, and that has been destroyed. Behind have been destroyed. Those houses belongs to families who worked so hard.
This family lost their home, money, and 3-year-old daughter, who ISIS stole from her mother's lap.
We lost everything. Their house has been put down. She lost her daughter. I mean, she said, what? Everything we own, we lost it.
Throughout the town, ISIS left behind writing on the wall. ISIS left graffiti all over Karakosh. This one says that ISIS will crush or squish all the unbelievers. And this one says that the Islamic State will expand with Allah's permission. This wall said, we destroyed your crosses. We beheaded you, you infidels.
Yeah.
Throughout the city, ISIS destroyed or burned Christian houses of worship. They especially damaged or destroyed crosses. They even pillaged Christian graves. ISIS not only destroyed the homes of the living, they also desecrated the final resting place of the dead. Here, they destroyed some of these memorial plaques and even opened the graves so they could loot any valuables they could find off the corpses. Sister Diana says the devastation would be overwhelming without faith in God.
They destroyed everything dear to us, but we tell them they could not destroy our will, our faith, our strength. They could destroy material things, but what it lives is the eternal things.
Sister Diana prays the townspeople will return, but says they need assurance.
Number one is the security. If I don't feel secure, I won't be able to stay here. If a father, a mother won't feel secure, they won't send their children to school.
After we liberate Karakosh, we hold the ground.
The town now sits under the control of a Christian-based militia, but Mafuk Sata says they need more help.
People, they need to come back, but they need to feel safe. They need force on the ground. They need, international protection. And that will be good, like a guarantee that will never happen again.
It's really scary to think that if something really big doesn't happen, ISIS could be successful in trying to destroy this community. It isn't without hope, but people need help here.
People, if they want to rebuild and return to their homes, they're gonna need help. They are broke already, they are homeless already. They are living in a place, it's not their homeland. This is our homeland.
Sister Diana fears too many Christian families may be discouraged and leave the area. She believes the Christians of northern Iraq are its salt and light.
That's what the gospel says, and that's what we try to be. We carry the message of our Lord Jesus Christ, and we are going to be faithful to Him. No matter what they do, they can't defeat God. And the glory of this church and this town is coming back. Sooner or later, God has promised us for a better life. And you know what? We're gonna look for that promise.
In the meantime, Sister Diana asked for prayer that their faith will remain strong as residents of Karakosh trickle back to see their homes, their church, and to worship. Up next, with Donald Trump's election, is it time for a new and improved Israeli-Palestinian peace process? Welcome back. One of the biggest events worldwide was the election of President-elect Donald Trump. That has fueled speculation about future relations with the Middle East and especially with Israel. Some see this as a good time to overhaul the Israeli-Palestinian peace process. Many Israelis hope an incoming Trump administration will lead to a major change in addressing the Israeli-Palestinian conflict.
The combination of the changes in the United States, in Europe, and the region provide Israel with a unique opportunity to reset and rethink everything.
Since the 1993 Oslo Accords, Israel and the Palestinians aimed to resolve their conflict in part by establishing a Palestinian state in biblical Judea and Samaria, also known as the West Bank. That direction would ultimately lead to a divided Jerusalem and the eviction of thousands of Israelis. Israeli Education Minister Naftali Bennett, however, raised the stakes when he said Trump's election could signal the end of the two-state solution.
It's no secret that I think that the notion...
Countless failures, including violent Palestinian uprisings, attacks on Israel, and war in Gaza, the notion of the two-state solution remained. Signs of that situation possibly include comments from Trump advisor Jason Greenblatt. Israeli settlements in Judea and Samaria are not a stumbling block to peace. Trump himself has pledged to recognize Jerusalem as Israel's capital and move the U.S. embassy there from Tel Aviv, a move promised for more than 20 years by various candidates without any fulfillment. Former Ambassador Itamar Rubinovich believes such a move would meet with mixed reactions.
There will be happiness on the Israeli side, there will be unhappiness on the Arab-Palestinian side. There may be riots, there may be violence.
Former Israeli ambassador to the EU and Jordan, Oded Iran, tells CBN News Washington needs a fresh analysis of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict.
There will have to be an assessment of what didn't work with the Palestinians in the previous attempts and to come up with a new paradigm that may be more successful in attaining a solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict.
Iran says it's important the new president finds new ways to resolve the conflict. In Israel, the feeling is Prime Minister Netanyahu should push the new president for change because no one is more pro-Israel than the people who live here. Coming up, Trump wants to move the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem, but a United Nations body says Jews have no connection to their holiest site there. Welcome back. U.S. President-elect Donald Trump is pledging to move the U.S. Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, what many believe to be the eternal, undivided capital of the Jewish state. But earlier this year, the UN's Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization voted that Judaism's most holy sites aren't really Jewish at all. In a vote of 24 in favor, 6 against, and 26 abstaining, UNESCO gave preliminary approval to a resolution ignoring the Jewish connection to Jerusalem's Temple Mount and Western Wall.
This is at the core of Jewish and Christian history, and yet there's this systematic attempt to airbrush the history out of the picture.
Students of the Bible know that the Temple Mount behind me has been the focal point of Christian and Jewish history for thousands of years. It's where Abraham prepared to sacrifice Isaac and where King Solomon built a temple according to the Lord's direction. But this Palestinian-sponsored resolution refers to the Temple Mount and the Western Wall almost exclusively by their Muslim names. On his Facebook and YouTube pages, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu said the UNESCO theater of the absurd continues.
Even if they don't read the Bible, I would suggest that UNESCO members visit the Arch of Titus in Rome. On it, one can see what the Romans brought back to Rome after they destroyed and looted the Second Temple on the Temple Mount 2,000 years ago. There, engraved on the Arch of Titus, is the 7-branch menorah, which is the symbol of the Jewish people, and, I remind you, is also the symbol of the Jewish state today. Soon, UNESCO will say that the Emperor Titus engaged in Zionist propaganda.
Netanyahu said this decision would be like saying China wasn't connected to the Great Wall or Egypt to the pyramids. CBN senior editor John Waggy said the Temple Mount is really ground zero for the Jewish and Christian faiths.
It's also the place where David was made king of Jerusalem, of Israel, and where Jesus overturned the money changers' booths at the temple, and also where Satan tempted Jesus.
The U.S. joined Great Britain, Germany, the Netherlands, Lithuania, and Estonia in voting against the resolution. U.S. Senators Marco Rubio and Mark Kirk urged the Obama administration to condemn its adoption, writing, "This is just another attempt in UNESCO's disturbing trend of attacking Israel and delegitimizing the Jewish state and does nothing to promote peace." The spokesman for the Palestinian presidency said the U.S. should review its policies toward Israel, and Israel should recognize a Palestinian state with Eastern Jerusalem as its capital, with its Muslim and Christian holy sites. Oddly enough, there wouldn't be any Christian holy sites if there hadn't been Jewish ones there first.
This is just one component of a larger Palestinian effort within the UN to delegitimize, to rewrite history so that this becomes a justification for a Palestinian state, a Muslim presence on the Temple Mount, a capital in East Jerusalem, all these things. So they're working on those simultaneously.
A final vote on the resolution is scheduled for next week. But if more countries don't stand up for Israel and the Bible, it's set to pass. Coming up, see what archaeologists uncovered in one of the oldest churches in Jerusalem. Welcome back. Looking back at the year, there's been many archaeological discoveries that have fit the biblical narrative. One of the most exciting was here in Jerusalem. For the first time in centuries, researchers uncovered what they believe to be the tomb of Jesus inside the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. This is what we found in the heart of the old city, where a major restoration is ongoing in the 4th century church. This National Geographic video shows workmen uncovering the marble slab over the tomb on October 26th. As the video says, the modest tomb has never before been photographed, and no drawings exist. It reported conservationists were surprised to find something their instruments didn't detect, a layer of debris beneath the marble cover. Then underneath the debris, they found another marble slab with a cross carved into its surface. Then they saw the original burial bed. Emperor Constantine ordered the church built in the 4th century. His mother, Queen Helena, came here to discover the tomb where Jesus was buried. The Roman Emperor Hadrian in the 2nd century built a temple here to the goddess Aphrodite. The historian Eusebius said he did it to cover the tomb where Jesus was buried. The examination of the tomb is part of a restoration project. Workers are preparing the structure known as the edicule, which means little house. It was built to protect the tomb. The last repair work done on the edicule took place over 200 years ago. Professor Antonio Marapoulou leads the restoration and told CBN News earlier this year about the project.
We will remove the marble slabs, the stone slabs. We will inject grouts to homogenize the complex structure, which is the holy rock. That means that we develop a unified structure, that all the layers will behave structurally as one. And upon this, after repairing with new compatible and performing mortars and concrete, we will readjust the stone slabs with titanium bolts.
For the workers, it's more than a job. Vasilios Sefelis is a Greek civil engineer.
So I'm very excited because I'm a Christian Orthodox and I am working in Greece in monuments like this. But this is a specialized project, very specialized project. I don't believe that I can go to something bigger than this.
Each one of us in front of the Holy Tomb feels the values of the Holy Tomb. And the Holy Tomb is the most alive place in the world. It gives the message of resurrection.
National Geographic plans to show more of its footage this month on its Explorer channel. The restoration should be completed sometime next year. That's just one of the many major stories of the past year. Thanks for joining us in 2016, and we look forward to being with you in the coming year. I'm Chris Mitchell. We'll see you next year on Jerusalem Dateline.